Hello, everybody. Welcome. My name is Delia Zuniga, and I am here with Copilot Studio MVP Griffin Lickfeldt, who is also the host of the Citizen Developer. And he is here to help me kick off this new series where I'm going to be interviewing different people in the community to really hear about their journey and how they got into AI. And so Griffin has been so gracious to agree to sit here with me so I can ask him some questions about where he started, where he is now, all the lessons learned, all the resources that he came across that has really helped build up his confidence and technical skills to where he is today. So before we get into any of the other questions, welcome, Griffin. How are you doing?
I'm well. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm really excited to be here. I probably almost 2 years ago kind of started my own form of, like longer form interview style, just like talking to people, chit-chatting with people. I called it Power Talks. And it impacted my life and my career in a lot of really cool ways. So I'm excited to see you doing something similar. And I know exactly what it's like to try to be, ask somebody to be the first episode. So I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I was so excited that you said yes. I was like, let's go. We can do this. So
Yeah.
I am so excited. And you and I have crossed paths a few times now in the community, and I've been able to see just your growth in the community and just like how much you're giving back to the community. So I know that you're going to be able to share some amazing tidbits as we continue on. But so you're currently in the AI space, you're an MVP, you contribute to the community, but I want to bring us back to the very beginning. Like, where did you start your journey? And it can just be like, what was your first job?
Yeah. Well, great question. It's funny. I was okay. I'll also say I'm a storyteller. So this is my brain thinking about how I can tell this story the best. So I, always loved sports, and so I played sports. And so when I was in high school, I was fortunate enough that I didn't have to like work a job. My parents told me like football and school was my job, like just focus on that. But I did one Christmas season. My first job, technically, I was a Christmas tree salesman at this local garden shop, which was hilarious. I don't even want to think about how many cars I scratched by throwing these trees on top and destroying the paint. But it's okay. What you gonna do? But I then went to school and I knew I wanted to study business, but I wasn't too sure what I wanted to study. I had a scholarship to essentially study entrepreneurship. So I was like, okay, I guess that's decided for me. I'm going to study entrepreneurship. But I always really enjoyed like math and numbers and like the problem solving of it. And so for a while I was like, let me think about studying math, majoring in math as well. That was not, once it got to a point, it was no numbers and just all letters. And I was like, this is not for me. So I ended up studying
Yeah.
accountancy. There's a point to the story. So I ended up studying accountancy and entrepreneurship, convinced I was going to be an accountant. And the school I went to, which was the University of North Dakota, had a really good accountancy program that had like 90 some percent job placement in Minneapolis. And, there's lots of big four consulting companies and accounting companies there. It's like, all right, there you go. That's the pipeline right there.
Mhm.
Um, Pretty much in my last semester of college was like, I do not want to be an accountant. I think it was just because I had a bad professor, and I don't know, just really left a bad taste in my mouth of like just
Mhm.
that being my life.
Yeah.
And to make a long story short, a friend of mine was working for a Microsoft partner. Now, different people call them different things. This person was a Scrum Master. Basically, I tried to explain it the other day. I was like, it's like a vibes PM type role. All right. So it's like a PM sort of role. And I don't mean to take anything away from Scrum Masters, but it's a
Mhm.
non-technical role. It's
Mhm.
very people oriented. And this person was really good at his job.
Mhm.
And he was working for this partner. And I kind of knew he worked in tech, something kind of with Microsoft, but he worked from home. I was like, that could be cool. And I was kind of telling him this dilemma I was in, and he was like, dude, you should reach out and apply for like this junior consultant role. Um, I didn't necessarily know what all I was signing up for. It turns
Mhm.
out what it was, and I don't mind name dropping this either, but I started at a company called Hitachi Solutions. And what it was a dynamics consultant. And they had, this was the third year that they had done what's called a launch program. Um, shout out to my good friend Mark Lindbergh, who put together this program where they brought in people that had the soft skills to be a billable resource, somebody who could be a consultant, but they didn't necessarily know Dynamics. They didn't know the Power Platform. They didn't know application lifecycle management. They didn't know, they didn't know the industry. And it
Yeah.
was basically a 3-month program to teach us what we needed to know so we could be a junior billable resource and not get the company sued, sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
Like we'd have some
Yeah.
oversight, but
Yeah.
we'd be really cheap resources and we could get some project experience and that sort of thing. So I'd applied to the program and I was like, in my interviews, like Googling Microsoft Dynamics, like watching Lisa Crosby videos on the Power Platform. And like, I
Love
mean, at
Lisa
the
Crosby.
time, I didn't know who Lisa Crosby was. I'm just like
Yeah.
trying to learn about this. I'd kind of heard of
Yeah.
what CRM was in
Yeah.
school. And I had like one accounting project with Power BI, but like I knew nothing about this stuff. I'm not a
Yeah.
computer science person at all.
Hmm.
Googling this stuff, figuring it out in prep for my interviews. Ended up, yeah, getting the job. And I don't know, so that was my first job. That's how I got into the industry. I feel very lucky because at that time, I don't mind saying this as well. I'm a young professional, so I started. I graduated college and started in the industry in 2022, which I was very fortunate that the industry was kind of still booming from post COVID. So
Yeah.
it's definitely like that program at Hitachi is not there anymore. I was kind of the last year of that. So I try not to take it lightly when people ask me the same question of like, well, how do I get started?
Yeah.
Um, but I do know that there are still programs like that out there at different larger partners, and so like that's how I kind of got into the industry, and I was fortunate enough. My first big boy job was at a Microsoft partner doing Dynamics consulting.
That's awesome. So I imagine though that this program didn't teach you everything, right? But it at least gave you the very first basic, laying down your foundation, right? After that program, like how did you continue growing? You
Yeah,
mentioned Lisa Crosby, so I'm hearing YouTube. Like what were some other things where you were
yeah.
learning?
I really focused on the certifications.
Mm,
I think some people like to hate on the certifications, and
mhm.
sure, like just because somebody has certifications doesn't actually mean they'll be a good teammate or a good resource, for sure. But I actually think, as much as it's easy to pick on Microsoft sometimes, I actually think they do a really good job of an incredible amount of free educational resources through Microsoft Learn and through those. Whenever you go to a certification, there's a course and it's a series of modules. And they have like time, hey, this will take 53 minutes, this will take an hour and a half. Typically, it takes about half that time, than what it says in there. Like that is my bread and butter. So like during those 3 months, I've worked fully remote, but those 3 months I was in person. So I had to move to South
Oh,
Carolina.
wow.
I was engaged at this time as well, so I was doing long distance. I
Mhm.
rented some trash apartment. It like had no Wi-Fi. So I was like, all right, I can't play video games. I can't whatever. So I just
Yeah.
spent my time on Microsoft Learn. Um, by the end of my first week, I had gotten the PL 900, which I don't even know if that's still a thing anymore. Because this was, yeah, like at the time of recording 4 years ago, the PL 900, which is just like intro to the Power Platform, basically.
Right. Hmm.
Basically, it was like if you can define Power Apps, Power Automate, Power Virtual Agents, Power BI, and Power Pages, you got the exam. So I done that. I then a month after that got the PL 200, and even against the advice of like my manager at the time, he's like, "That's way too fast. Don't do that." Whatever. I was like, "I'm gonna do it." Um, I failed it the first time, but I
Hmm.
retook it like 2 or 3 days later, and I got it. But so that was what I really tried to focus on learning. Um,
Hmm.
I also think I got to hand it to kind of the leadership that was over the launch program that I was in, because they gave us like mentors at the company. So somebody who had been at the company, maybe it was 2 or 3 or 4 years, maybe ahead of us in that track. Um,
Hmm.
so somebody who was maybe like a senior consultant or like a junior solution architect, like kind of in that
Yeah.
role to ask questions with, to kind of mentor us. And yeah, I just kind of spent all of my time just trying to learn on Microsoft Learn. Like, so I don't know. It's funny. Like in Microsoft Learn, when you're doing those modules and things, it'll give you like, there's a little XP, like 100 XP for every
Yeah.
page you visit. I don't
Yeah.
know what level I'm on now, but like
Yeah.
whatever developer said, hey, let's do this, like that was a genius idea. All right. That motivates me to keep going.
Right.
So that was generally what I really tried to prioritize on learning,
Yeah.
was those certifications, because you couldn't always, especially in my role, like you couldn't pick the type of project experience you got, right? Like somebody else was in charge of staffing me.
Right.
Um, but I still wanted to take the opportunity to get those certifications as fast as I could, and then I don't remember exactly how long, probably maybe a year and a half after that, then I got the PL 600, which was a solution architect, Power Platform solution architect, which was definitely pretty
Yeah.
challenging.
Mm-hmm.
Between there, I had picked up some of the dynamics focused certifications as well. If you work for a partner, they generally all have coupons for them to be really cheap, if not free.
Yeah.
So like it didn't necessarily cost me a ton of money to get those certifications either, So
Mm-hmm.
that was what I tried to focus on learning, because I actually
Yeah.
think they proved to be pretty helpful.
Yeah, no, very cool. So you were learning yourself through the certifications, through YouTube and other resources. You got a mentor, which is amazing. Did you ever have feelings of like self-doubt of like, I know these things because I'm learning them, but maybe you hadn't yet had like the hands-on experience or you were put on projects where people had years and years of experience? Like, did you ever have any of those self-doubts?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I ironically, I think at the time, maybe I was just a little foolish or overconfident. I don't know. I wouldn't say I really had that much self-doubt at the time. I don't know. I got recommended a book called, it sounds inappropriate, but it's called Getting Naked. And it's a consulting book by this guy named Patrick Lencioni. He writes a bunch of books on business and consulting, and essentially the whole premise of the book is admit when you don't know something. Like this idea of like getting naked, like this idea of like you're not
Yeah,
trying to like
being
protect your
transparent.
image or something. Yeah, it's
Hmm.
like full transparency.
Yeah.
And so I had gotten that advice early on, and I don't know, I was like, well, I don't think everyone's lying to me. Like this must be the way to do it.
Yeah.
And so I mean, I just think it's so true. I still work with people sometimes where you can kind of catch them in like a lie about something, and it's just like, why? Like, why are you lying?
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
I don't know. It's sometimes we can feel really weird about like that imposter syndrome because, as consultants, I'm gonna take the approach, the assumption that like, myself and everybody listening, we're third party consultants, right? Like we work, a
Hmm.
company pays us for our expertise, right?
Yeah.
It can be really awkward to say like, oh, I don't know, even though you're paying me for my expertise.
Yeah.
But I find that when you do, it makes it if I say, oh yeah, I 100%, I know that this is the correct answer, and I'm right, cool. All right, next question. Yeah, it's this. I absolutely know that, and I'm right, cool. And then they're like, third question. I'm like, yeah, it's that, and I'm wrong. The fourth question, I'm like, oh yeah, it's that. I'm right. Like totally. Like there's now doubt. They no
Yeah.
longer have total confidence in what I'm saying.
Hmm.
But if they ask me question three and I'm like, I think it's this, and to be honest, it's really easy to just blame Microsoft and be like, I think I saw
Things
a
have
post.
changed.
Yeah, this stuff changes all the time. I think I saw a LinkedIn post. Let me just
Yeah.
research it real quick. Like, dude, it's the easiest scapegoat ever. Like, just like if you don't know something, to just
Yeah.
like pull that card out. Um, because now then the fourth question when they ask me and I have my answer, right? They know that I'm being truthful because I admittedly said when I didn't know.
Yeah.
So that really helped me. Ironically, I feel very fortunate to have grown in the way I have, and not to say that it was easy. It definitely took a lot of hard work, and not to make it sound like I've made it or that I'm prideful in any way. But I ironically feel more imposter syndrome now than I feel like I have before, because when you're starting out, like people don't expect you to have all the answers either.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like when you're the
Yeah.
junior resource, it's like it's
Hmm.
totally cool to be like, I don't know. I haven't been on a
Yeah.
project that does this. But now
Yeah.
that, you're in the industry, you're maybe an MVP, you're maybe making the most amount of money you've ever made, like it's just I don't know, you get some more of that pressure, where
Oh,
people see you
definitely.
more as an expert. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't know, we're all just, one of my first conversations I had, somebody was like, just be a really good Googler. Like and you'll be a great consultant. So it's like, we're
Yeah.
just good Googlers. I don't know. I know how to find stuff on Microsoft Learn. So
Yeah, no, there you go. I have to agree with you. Like when I was first starting out, it was so easy to be like, I just haven't done that yet, but let me go figure it out, or let me go ask Google, or let me go ask a colleague. But now where you're right, like when you're seen as the expert or you have that title of solution architect, it's like people expect you to have those answers.
yeah.
But it's great to hear that like the advice was given to you really early on about being transparent. I think that's certainly something that people can take on at any point in their career, right? Even if you're like already a solution architect, it's okay to say, you know what, I'm not sure. Let me look into it. So I think that's fantastic advice. As you were continuing on, and whether it was earlier on, in the middle, or even more recently, what have been maybe some of the biggest challenges that you faced being in a role in AI?
Yeah. So let me tell more of that story as well of how I went from junior dynamics consultant to
Yeah.
AI solution architect, or
Hmm.
I guess technically my role currently, I'm a solution engineer, but it's all the same thing. Um, so I Yeah, so I was focused on really just solely Dynamics, which at the end of the day is model-driven apps, Dataverse, Power Automate. I mean, it is the Power Platform, but it was through
Right.
the lens of customizing dynamic sales, customer service, at the
Hmm.
time, the marketing app, um, for organizations. And that gave me the structure to focus on learning like Dataverse, learning like tables, learning Power Automate, learning model-driven apps. And I had the opportunity basically when Copilot Studio first came out. Um, at Hitachi, there were two Copilot Studio agent projects that we signed, and I was kind of part time on the bench. And so I got picked up and put on them. And looking back, they were really simple agents. One, essentially, we wanted it to look at like one or two knowledge documents and live on the customer website and just answer questions on that. The other one was a little bit more complex in that it was like an internal pointing at a knowledge base to help customer service reps. So, somebody
Hmm.
calls and I'm a rep and I don't know how to answer their
Yeah.
question. I can talk to this agent and get an answer, and then I tell them over the phone. And those were like the two agents. And this was when Copilot Studio, again, it was so new. It was quite literally like, it was basically still in preview, basically. The whole platform was full of bugs. It was all still like old Power Virtual Agents logos everywhere.
Yeah.
There was no Microsoft Learn documentation, no MVP videos because it was so new.
Hmm.
And like me and the architect on the project, we're just like banging our heads against the wall, like trying to figure this out. And I don't know, that was a really cool experience for me. It was a headache, but it was a really cool experience. And I was like, this is actually some pretty cool stuff. Like,
Hmm.
um, and this is all around the same time, like Copilot had kind of just been announced and whatever. I was like, this seems like it could be a really cool wave. So I then spent, long story short, some time after that, I transitioned to a standalone Power Platform role. So I went to a different company, a much smaller partner of like 8 people named Confluent, which they were incredible to work with. It was really cool. I was basically a Power Platform solution architect, so no more Dynamics, but
Yeah.
Dataverse, SQL, lots of Canvas apps, which I had zero experience with.
Yeah.
Some like Azure Blob Storage, like some of these like other pieces of technology that like when I was in my lane didn't get exposed to. And
Hmm.
they were great to work with. I got to see a different type of customer. But I unfortunately just wasn't getting like the agent experience I wanted there. All my agent knowledge, and at this point I had become an MVP for Copilot Studio, was essentially on my own. And I wanted more experience building agents, with my day job, so to speak. I don't
Hmm.
remember your original question.
What are your biggest challenges?
My biggest challenge. Um, I think the biggest challenge is how much this stuff is changing. I feel
Hmm.
like it quite literally is impossible to stay up to date. I feel like that I don't know, people may look at me and be like, dang, how does he know all this stuff? And I don't know, I just look at other people, I'm like, dang, how do they know all this stuff? Like it's
Yeah.
just, it's just a ladder, I guess. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the biggest challenge. Right now, like something I've been focusing on really this whole year is ironically certifications, like what we were talking about, because Microsoft did come out
Mm-hmm.
with a lot of Copilot agent and AI focused certs that so
Yeah.
far have been really good. So like I've been focusing on that, like learning those technologies, learning a little bit
Mm-hmm.
more about RAG, learning a little bit more about Copilot Studio agents. It's been really foreign to me to like learn about Azure and everything because I don't know,
Yeah.
I've always just been Power Platform, and so like learning
Mm-hmm.
about Azure and Foundry and those sort of stuff. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's what I think is kind of the biggest challenge. And I
Mm-hmm.
mean, because at the end of the day, maybe maybe excuse me, maybe the biggest challenge would actually be getting the project experience. But I'm going to assume that that's not all in our control, right? So, like for me, it's not in my control what projects I get staffed on. Um, but like, there are a lot of people who maybe have watched a couple YouTube videos, have played around in a POC, um, and then like will apply for a job on our team, and we're like, oh, okay, what's an agent that you've built and deployed to production? They're like, oh, I never have. I'm like, okay, we don't have. Like we all started
Yeah.
somewhere, like keep
Yeah.
going, you got this, but we don't have
Mm-hmm.
like we need somebody with that experience. So I would say that's kind of the
Yeah.
hardest part right now, which
Mm.
my advice. So, okay. Wait, this is actually so
We
fun.
want to hear it.
You're not even
No, we
saying
want to hear
anything.
it.
You're not even saying anything, but I'm just having this conversation in my head. So, okay. So I was at Hitachi and I was a consultant and I had been passed up on a promotion for like 3 or 6 quarters, basically, like in a row. I felt like I was deserving of solution architect.
Yeah.
And I was passed up for, and I will still say this, for absolute BS. All right. Um, and the person who was making those decisions didn't actually know our experience, which is not a fault to them. So what I did, and this was kind of lucky, I guess. A friend of mine who lived near me ran a fairly large nonprofit organization. And this, I overheard him talking to somebody one day and he was like, yeah, we just need like a CRM. Like, I have no idea what we're going to do. We just need a CRM. And me, I'm sitting here at this time, I'm still like a Dynamics consultant. I'm like,
Yeah.
dude,
You're
like
like,
this is what I
ooh.
do for a living. Like,
Yeah.
let's talk about it. Like, whatever.
Yeah.
Long story short, they didn't really want a CRM. They wanted a way to track the people that their nonprofit served. So if you call them customers, but not really,
Yeah.
it's a bunch of free resources to these people.
Mm-hmm.
But they needed a way to track these people, and their learning milestones and the things they're accomplishing and the conversations they're having and the documents for these people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, dude, let me just be a consultant and I'll build you a whole system. It was basically just Dataverse, a model driven app, a couple Power Automate flows connected to a SharePoint site. And like, but it was full end to end. Like we would meet up at a coffee shop and do lead discovery sessions. And then I would design
Yeah.
it and we would sign it off. I mean, we didn't use like ADO, but I had a backlog in Excel,
Yeah.
with like hours assigned to these things
Mm-hmm.
and like full end to end to like training to hand off to like whatever bug triage and like the reason I tell that story is because at that point I knew I wasn't like a fraud for calling myself a solution architect because I had
Mm-hmm.
done this in the real world, not even from the experience my employer gave me. I'd done it in the real world. I had the certifications, I had the experience, I had the skills based off
Mm-hmm.
of like what the people I directly work with, they're like, yeah, you got the skills, like you could do this. So
Mm-hmm.
at that point I was like, I'm a solution architect, right? And so that ultimately does that kind of make sense? So
Yeah.
as much as I would say the hardest part is getting that experience, I would say like just go and
Create your
get
own
it. Like
opportunities.
go and create
Yeah.
your own opportunities and your
Yeah.
experience.
Mm-hmm.
And knock doors in your local town to see if any small businesses want an agent, and what that could look like.
Mm-hmm.
And then so on my resume, when I was applying to other jobs, like I had that project experience on it for a nonprofit organization and how I was a solution architect and did
Yeah.
this and did that, whatever. So
Yeah.
it, yeah,
I loved how you were in a position where you felt like you didn't have much control over anything, but you took that as an opportunity to gain control of your situation because you had a goal. You knew that you had the skills, the technicals, the soft skills, everything you've gone through it yourself, and you went out to find your own opportunities to really build a strong case, a case that they couldn't say no to, right?
yeah,
That's
yeah. It's
amazing.
funny. It's funny how it worked out because I wasn't like intentionally trying to do it, but I don't know. I would recommend that to other people if they're feeling like, man, I just can't get the experience that I have. Like, go and find it. And like, I will say the advice too, because some people are like, well, non-competes, my company, whatever.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
I had those same non-competes, but I had talked to my manager, who was somebody I could really confide in, and they were like, look, at the end of the day, this project or this engagement is not something our company at the time would have been interested in pursuing anyways. So I'm not taking
Mm.
money from them, so to speak. Like
Mm.
they're not interested in that engagement. It'd be too small, right? It's not
Yeah.
their sort of customer and different things.
Yeah.
So like, but they also were like, but don't post about it on LinkedIn. Like
Yeah.
they were like, go do it. I don't see why you'd really have any trouble, but whatever. So
Mm.
I don't intend to get anybody in trouble, or anything
Yeah.
like that. But I also think sometimes we can be so risk averse that it just like stops us from progressing. And
From
I
doing
think that
anything. Yeah.
I think the majority of the time, in those scenarios, like we're saying, working with a small business, or if someone in your family owns a small business or a friend or something, like a lot of times, Microsoft partners are not after that business anyways. So
Hmm.
I don't think you really have to worry about, something like that. Not legal advice. All right. Consult your HR department
Yeah.
and
We'll
your
put a
lawyer
disclaimer
and your
somewhere on
family
here.
doctor. And yeah, exactly. So
Yeah. So it sounds like you plugged into like your physical community. Like what role did maybe mentors or sponsors or the Power
yeah.
Platform community play a role in your journey?
Yeah. I think that great question, because I don't know, none of us would be who we are without people who poured into us. Right. And so
Yeah.
whether that be parents or mentors or coaches or whatever.
Hmm.
And I had several mentors, and I don't know, I like to think that I have a growth mindset. And are you familiar with the idea of a growth mindset and a fixed mindset?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Right. The idea that we can continue to grow. It's a very
Hmm.
internal locus of control focus, that like my life is the way it is because of me, not because of what the world did to me. And
Hmm.
so we all have our own life experiences, and I'm not trying to tell anybody how to think, but that's personally how I think. And I think it serves me better than thinking the other way.
Yeah.
And I also believe in the saying, have you ever heard the saying, like, show me your friends, I'll show you your
Who
future, or
you're
you
gonna
are who you hang
be.
out with, like those
Hmm.
sayings.
Yeah.
I had heard those
Yeah.
sayings. I was like, all right, yeah, cool, whatever. And then when I was in college, I heard somebody say it a different way that I thought it clicked for me. Maybe it was my math mind, whatever. Somebody said that you're an average of the 5 people you hang out with most.
Mm.
And so instantly, I mean, at the time in the season I was in, I'm still dear friends with a lot of these people, but I instantly knew who was bringing down my average.
Mm.
Not to say that they're bad people or that I don't love them, but they weren't serving my goals for where I wanted to go,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
And this is all still before college, like, or when I was in college, like before, any of this.
Yeah.
But just that has kind of stuck with me, in that like I need to surround myself with people who are getting it done. Like
Hmm.
I need to hang out with people that would bring my average up. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying?
Yeah.
And not that doesn't I don't mean how much money they make or whatever, right? Like I can hang out with people because I love how how personal they are, right? Or how they remember everyone's name. Like, man, I want that character trait. I need to hang out with this person more. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
how does this person remember to text me on my birthday. Like, okay, I need to hang out with this person. Like, I'm terrible at that, right? Like,
Yeah.
even stuff like that. But even
Yeah.
to the point of like, man, I want to be a really great AI architect or agent architect. I need to hang out with people who are doing the thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I need
Hmm.
to have conversations. I need to spend time with these people so that it can bring my average up, right?
Hmm.
And so
Hmm.
like almost gamifying it. Like I said, I love sports. I At the end of the day, I feel like everything's a game, right? School is a game, sports is a game,
Yeah.
our careers in a little bit are a game, right? And you got to know how to play the game. And so
Hmm.
that's how I have learned to play the game is by and not that I hang out with people just to like mooch off of them or something, right? Like it's not like I'm hanging out with these people of like, hey, let me pick your brain, right? But like,
Yeah.
I don't know, just something about proximity. It allows like I'm not a science person, but this might be the fanciest word I've said all day. But like when you're close to people like that, like there's like the osmosis of like it just I don't know,
Yeah.
it you just like pick it up and it's just
Yeah.
it's like magnetic almost in that sense. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like it's
Hmm.
so that yeah, that's I guess the importance of mentors for me.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes they might have advice that's hard to swallow, but you just I mean, I don't
How
know.
did you like go about choosing the people that you wanted to become your mentors? And how did you like reach out to them to start that relationship?
Hmm.
Because
Um
I know you're friends with Nathan Rose, and he literally
yeah.
lives like on the other side of the
Yeah.
world. So like, how does something like that even happen?
Well, Nathan's not my mentor. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, Nathan, if he's listening. Well, okay. So how a lot of my friendships in the industry happened, which, like I mentioned in the very beginning, I think it's really cool you're starting this. Um, was yeah, like 2 years ago, I started the Power Talks podcast, and my first interview was with my friend Joe Unwin, who was an ex MVP, Flo Joe. If anybody knows Flo Joe, he worked at the company I worked with. We had kind of become friends, and we had kind of started a conversation around, hey, I wanted to be an MVP. Will you mentor me? And I think I just like sent him a message on Teams, like, hey, I want to be an MVP. You're an MVP. You're doing the YouTube thing. I want to do the YouTube thing. I want to meet once every 2 weeks and just like talk about how I can grow in this and what steps I need to do, right?
Yeah.
And so we had a friendship, and I was like, "Hey, Joe, will you be my first guest on the Power Talks podcast?" It's definitely similar conversations to like this.
Yeah.
Um, and here, pro tip for you: uh, once we're done, ask me for a referral to another person. So that's essentially
I
what
will
I
do it.
proceeded to do for like 90 episodes was just referral after referral after referral
Yeah.
after referral after referral. And sometimes I would reach out to people on LinkedIn if they were like, if they had MVP or whatever, I would shoot them a message and I had like a pre-written message. But just having people come on to the show and hang out with me for like an hour. I don't know. That is how I started to build friends in the industry. And I was doing this before I was an MVP. Like I
Yeah.
had the channel, but I was
Hmm.
just like hanging out, having conversations with people. And that's how I first met Nathan. Somebody
Yeah.
said, "Oh, you should reach out to Nathan Rose." Had him on the
Yeah.
show. And I don't know. We've just been good friends ever since. That's how I first met Rafsan,
Yeah.
who Rafsan Husseynov. He's now like a 3-time MVP and like 3 different things. He's just
Yeah.
showing
He's
off now at this
incredible.
point. I know,
Yeah.
can't stand that guy. No, I'm just kidding. I only say that because if anybody's wondering, Rafsan, him and I work at SHI together. He was my referral to my current role, and now he's my manager technically as well. So I give him a hard time. But like that's how I know
Yeah.
him. That's how I know great people like Chris Huntingford. That's how I've been able to hang out with people like Sean Astrahan. Um, and so I don't know. I've had lots of really cool people on the show, repeat people. I don't say that to say if I didn't just say your name that I've forgotten about you. But like I don't know, some of those like people like that's just I'm like, man, this person's doing the thing I need to get in proximity with them.
Yeah.
And
So I guess
so
like what I'm hearing is don't be afraid to reach out to people on LinkedIn. Like if you
yeah,
never reach out, you're never going to hear anything. Like you don't
yeah.
lose anything
I
from
quite
sending a
literally,
message.
sorry to interrupt you, but I quite literally basically every person I've had on the guest, the first time I ever talked to them was a LinkedIn DM.
Yeah.
I've only ever had one person say no. So
There
I'm
you go.
like 99% or whatever the
Yeah,
math
that's a
is,
good
you know what I'm
success
saying?
rate. Yeah.
Like 99% success rate.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I'm kind of glad that one person said no, to be honest. I don't know,
Hey,
whatever.
wasn't
All
meant to
right,
be.
we'll say it like
Yeah.
that. So like I don't know, people are so accessible, and something that's super
Yeah.
cool about our industry is there is the MVP community and these different things that
Mm-hmm.
people are so available online and just like willing to
Yeah.
share. And so
Mm-hmm.
like if you can be respectful of their time, um
Mm-hmm.
I'll say this. All right, let's get practical because I don't like theory.
Come with an
Okay.
agenda.
Yeah, if you message an MVP and say, "Hey, can I pick your brain?" You're probably just getting dude swipe archive. Like you're not like I'm not listening to that. All right. And I don't mean to say that like, oh, look at me, I'm so busy, you
Yeah.
bum. I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm saying is come with a very pointed question. Your message should not be more than like 4 sentences. Don't 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 reach out to a stranger and ask for 6 different things in 9 paragraphs and tell them your life story. Just be like, hey, I think what you're doing is really cool. Love your stuff, right? I had this
Yeah.
really specific question on this one little thing. Here's this, this,
Yeah.
and this, and this. If you can help me, let me know. Right? Don't
Yeah.
ask to get on a call. Don't ask to pick their brain. Don't ask for, like blah blah blah. But people are super accessible, but you gotta play the game. You gotta
Yeah.
play the game. Like if there's
Yeah.
I try to respond to every LinkedIn DM. Sometimes it takes me a couple weeks depending on, what I'm doing. I'll tell you the longer your DM is, the longer it's waiting in the inbox. Like it just is. It's
Mm-hmm.
just that simple because it takes that much more time, whatever.
Yeah.
So that would be my practical advice. You can totally reach out to anybody on LinkedIn in our industry, but be
Mm-hmm.
be pointed with what you're asking and how you're reaching out.
Yeah, I mean, even same goes to Microsoft employees. Like, I remember I really needed support from them to build up my user group. And I did exactly that. I kept it nice, short, and sweet. I said, this is my goal. This is how I really
Yeah.
need you to help me with. And I got a response so quickly.
Yeah. You
And it
don't want
just
it to
like,
feel like
yeah.
either, I mean, people are willing to share without wanting
Hmm.
anything in return, but
Yeah.
you don't want to come across as like begging either. You know what I mean? Like you don't
Hmm.
want to come across like I don't know what I'm trying to say, but like
Don't
I
want
don't
to
know.
sound too
I don't know.
needy.
Yeah, you don't want to sound like needy. It's just like, hey, I'm trying to learn this thing, I'm really
Yeah.
fired up, but like if you sound needy to where like I guess I don't know what I'm trying to say, but like just be tasteful in how you reach out. All
Yeah.
right. Be
Yeah.
respectful, be tasteful, be
Hmm.
pointed. Like,
Hmm.
yeah.
And when you actually meet up with that individual, make sure that you have very specific things to talk about, that you're respecting their time. If you set it up for 30 minutes, only take 30 minutes because
Yeah.
MVPs and everyone in between, we're all really busy, but
Everyone's
we're
busy.
giving
Yeah.
up our time to support you and however that we can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
So I wanted to kind of make the link from like where you're at now, maybe some of the things that you're doing now. Maybe what were some of the skills that you had that you developed really early on that are still benefiting you because you're
Yeah.
still using those same skills today?
I think the great question. And I think this answer is really easy for me.
Hmm.
Um, it is your ability to communicate. I think some people it comes very natural to communicate. Some people it is very unnatural. And I don't mean like public speaking communication, but I mean the idea to have a thought in my mind and be able to transfer that same thought to your mind, right?
Yeah.
Um, and like being able to communicate is such an underrated skill. You could be the single smartest person, but if you can't communicate your idea, then it doesn't matter.
Mm.
And I heard, so I would say to answer your question, communication. learning how to communicate. I will say I have always been a fairly natural communicator. I definitely have worked on it. And the YouTube channel has forced me to work on it a lot,
Yeah.
like how I
Yeah.
communicate my word choice. Um,
Hmm.
and I mean, I just said and different things. So like, not that you have to be perfect,
Yeah.
but I think how we can communicate is the most valuable skill. So then the next question is like, okay, well, how do I get better at communicating? All right,
Right.
great question. I'm glad you asked. Okay, so two things. One, um, one is to read. All right. Now
Mm,
this is you name dropped Nathan Rose earlier. I'll shout him
yeah.
out again. He shared, and I don't remember what episode this was, but the first time we met, he shared on an episode that if communication was an Olympic sport, reading would be the banned substance, is like his quote. And
Mm.
I'm sure he didn't come up with it, so he probably coined it from somewhere else. But essentially what he's saying is if you want to be a really good communicator, just like if you want to be a really good athlete, you need to,
You need to
go to the gym,
train.
you need to do this.
Yeah.
And if you use steroids, that's illegal because that helps you too much, right? That's a
Yeah.
banned substance. And so in
Yeah.
the same way, he was saying that if you want to be a better communicator, like you should read. The way it enhances your
Mm,
communication skills is insane.
yeah.
And I will say, I hate, I shouldn't say this anymore. I used to hate reading. All the way through college, if you would ask me what the last
You're
book
a
I
math
read was,
person.
yeah, exactly. My reading comprehension was terrible. It
Yeah.
sometimes still is terrible. But like if you would have asked me when I was in college, what's the last book I read for fun, I would have told you like Diary of a Wimpy Kid in like second grade. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
if you know, you know. If you're older
Yeah.
than us, then you don't know the book. But like that was like that
Yeah.
I didn't read. I hated reading.
Yeah.
Um, but around that same summer, when I was in that launch program, I mentioned I lived in an apartment with terrible Wi-Fi. So I was like,
Hmm.
you know what? I feel like smart people on this was no joke. This was my motivation. All right. I was like, people on teams, when they're really smart, they have a bookshelf behind them full
Yeah.
of books. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? And I was
Yeah.
like, and I can't be a fraud and have a bookshelf full of books I haven't
You've
read.
never read.
So my motive, because then someone's gonna be like, "Oh, like what'd you think about that book?" And I'm gonna say, "I don't know, I haven't read it." And then now I'm a
Yeah.
fraud, right? So I
Yeah.
was like, okay, my only motivation for starting to read was to fill a bookshelf behind me, and now I don't even. My bookshelf's over here, like it doesn't even matter. You know what I mean?
It didn't even make it to the
But
background.
didn't even make it to the background. But like in all seriousness, though,
Yeah.
that gave me kind of an itch to read, and not that like I'm reading these books so that I can better communicate, but you just absorb how the author is communicating to you, like how the author is communicating their thoughts to you. You just absorb it. You absorb the different vocabulary. You absorb the
Yeah.
sentence structure. You
Yeah.
absorb the way things are communicated, and it helps you
Hmm.
become naturally a better communicator over time.
Yeah.
So like, okay, that was one. That I said there were two things. That was the first thing.
Two
The
things.
second thing
Hmm.
is just to like spend time doing it. So that could be something as simple as like, I don't know, having a routine where you talk at dinner or like a family dinner or something like that. For me, it was having conversations like this with other people in the industry.
Yeah.
I needed that kind of extra person to help motivate me to continue to do it, that like
Hmm.
external motivation. So I don't know, you just
Hmm.
kind of have to put the time in and practice it. And I think that
Hmm.
if you can become a better communicator, you're going to be really desirable in the marketplace, I guess I would say.
Yeah. And even those skills can be applied as you were talking. I was also just thinking about like prompt engineering. Like you need to be really concise into what it is that you want the AI to do. And that
Yeah.
also comes with your communication, even though it's written text, right? Like you need to be able to articulate yourself in a nice, concise way so that you're also not taking up too many tokens,
Yeah.
but you're still getting the task across so the AI knows exactly what you need to do.
I think there's a lesson there in that, how we, yeah, you need to be very point in how you communicate your idea and your expectations and your goal of what you want.
Yeah.
And it could be a really practical way to get immediate feedback on how good of a communicator you are. But it's just as important with other people, right? Like being
Yeah.
able to communicate, like, hey, I need you to read this and then do this and then reach out to me on this. And then read this, right? Like being able to like
Yeah.
communicate those things to other people is how you get stuff done and how teams
Hmm.
work, so.
Yeah. So now that you've been in this role for some time, you've been an MVP. I think you're approaching your one
Almost
year
a year.
mark.
Yeah, almost
Yeah,
a year.
that's amazing. So you've been in this space, you've been very involved. What has been like the most unexpected thing that has happened in your life because you've been in this space?
Hmm. The most unexpected thing to happen in my life in related to, I guess, my career.
Yeah. I have one to recommend. What about your trip to New
Please.
York?
Sure. Yeah, I was gonna do some kind of trip. I was thinking about
Yeah.
not to. I don't know if anybody's listening and they're not an MVP. I don't mean to bring this up. MVP Summit was a really cool experience because you got
Mhm.
to hang out with a lot of like-minded people.
Yeah.
I I consider myself, and I think you would consider yourself one as well, like a hustler. Like I like to hustle. I like
Hmm.
to go and get it.
Yeah.
I I like to put in this, I call them separation hours, like times when
Hmm.
people are not working. Like I like to be working. And part of me is like, yeah, I
Yeah.
know I'm hunting you down right now, Like I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm a hustler. I like the hustle. I like doing that. And
Hmm.
a lot of MVPs and people in our industry are hustlers too. And so that's a really cool experience. Yes, that's a great point. Thank you for bringing that up. I had a very unique experience to be able to, because of my personal brand online, somebody liked the way I taught and communicated and reached out that I would put together essentially a course or a master class on parts of the Power Platform. And so their like content studio was in Manhattan, New York City, and I had
Yeah.
never been. And so I had an
Coolest
opportunity
thing
to
ever.
go out there and sit in this studio looking all fancy and
Yeah.
whatever. So that was a really cool experience. My wife came with me the first time I went out there as well. It was the first time either of us had
Mhm.
been to New York. So I don't know, you
Yeah.
do have some cool experiences like that. You get to meet really cool people. But I think like the community is so cool. Like it is so unheard of for like corporate communities to be as unique and special as the Microsoft industry. And I
Yeah.
think that even competitors to Microsoft, like the Google community is not like this. The, Oracle community is not like this. The Amazon community
Yeah.
is not like this. Like it's just really cool to see.
Hmm.
And I don't know. I think there's some hustlers out there, and it's fun to hang out with them and be around like-minded people in that way.
Yeah. So I have two more questions for you.
Okay, I'll
One,
go fast.
because we talked about how quickly things are moving, how are you not so much like keeping up, but like how are you still continuing to grow in just your learning? Like how are you still continuing to learn?
Yeah. So right now, I don't put it's behind the camera, but I got basically a 24-inch by 36-inch whiteboard. Like this last January,
Hmm.
and I essentially wrote out the top like third of it. I have every single month right now: January, February, March, April, May, June, July, whatever.
Yeah.
And on each month, I wrote a goal for myself. Most of the goals, because I was feeling pretty behind on certifications, last year, I learned the lesson that I had deprioritized my own upskilling. So I was like, all right, this year I'm going to focus on my upskilling. So
Yeah.
let me look at it. January, I had like a utilization goal because I had a lot of project work. February, I had the AB 730, if I'm reading my handwriting correctly. The AB 730.
Yeah.
March, my goal was to be an MCT. April, I wrote AB 900. Um, let's see here. May, what does that say? Oh, May I had like some personal vacation and things coming up. So I had like
Hmm.
a Anthropic AI fluency course, really easy to get. June, I had the AB 620. July, I had like some content stuff planned. August, which is our time of recording, is the AI 103. So like this is when people say like, oh, set goals, like I'm only saying this, like this is how practical I am. Every day I am looking at this whiteboard and I'm like, okay, I have to get this done,
Yeah.
for whatever that is. It's my to-do
Yeah.
list, but it's also my high level goals for the year. So like
Hmm.
if I just would have written out, I want to get these 9 certifications this year. Like, I would have just looked at him
It needs that time
terrified,
limit.
intimidated
Yeah.
for 3 months, and now I'm 3 months behind. But
Yeah.
instead, I basically I probably bit off a little more than I can chew, but I set a sizable goal for every single month. And it was like, this
Mhm.
month, this is my goal, is to get this certification. So to answer your question, what am I doing actively right now? Actively right now, I'm studying for the AI 103. But again, coming back to those certifications, I generally, I just recently, so on my iPhone, you know how you have the apps in the hot bar, at the
Yep.
bottom. I
Yep.
recently removed Instagram and added LinkedIn to the hot bar of my
Good.
apps. So I'm like
Yeah.
chronically on LinkedIn.
Yeah. I
Unfortunately, I
totally
just spit, but
removed Instagram from like my home
unfortunately,
screen.
so
Like I have to
yeah,
actually dig for it if I really
yeah.
want to open it.
Yeah, so I'm chronically on LinkedIn in those certifications.
Yeah.
Is personally what I do. I know there's some really great newsletters out there. Subscribe to the Citizen Developers YouTube channel. There's great content there. A lot of the videos that I'm making right now are study guides for these certifications I've been taking. So to
Which
help
I have to
other
say
people.
have been amazing. Like no joke for you all like watching. I literally watched his AB 730, AB 731, AB 620 videos, and that was literally the only thing I used to study. Like I didn't even open up Microsoft Word. Like I just
Yeah,
went with my experience in those areas and watched his videos and went to go take the test and I passed it first time. Like they
yeah.
are so detailed and I think you're doing an incredible job in like really breaking it down for people who maybe it's their first certification. And quite honestly, like I'm always sharing your videos with
Thank
my
you,
colleagues because I know that they're preparing for those certifications and honestly, they're just some amazing resources. So keep it
thank you,
up. Please create one for the AI 103 because that's what I'm also preparing for. But I hear that it's very heavy on Python, which is not, I don't
I
have
have
an
zero
experience with
Python
that.
experience,
Yeah, so
so
I'm
I'm
a
kind of
little scared.
scared. Yeah, I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, yeah, but that would be a really good one. So I've loved our conversation today. Thank you so much, Griffin, for joining me to help kick off this series. I love all of your little tidbits. I think people will be able to take so much from our conversation today. And you dropped a few resources already, but how can people connect with you, find you? Are you going to any conferences soon? Like, where can
Yeah.
people connect with you?
Great question. Well, thank you for having me on here. It's been a ball hanging out and sharing what I'm learning as I'm learning it, and which is the saying I always try to say. I'm
Yes.
sharing what I'm learning as I'm learning it because it's the truth.
Mhm.
To your question, I'm the only Griffin Lickfeldt in the world, so you can look up Griffin Lickfeldt on LinkedIn. You'll find me there. Otherwise, most of what I'm sharing is through the Citizen Developer YouTube channel. I've always enjoyed, watching YouTube and different things, so it's been a really easy platform for me to prioritize. It's like a little blue CD logo. You
Mhm.
can't miss it. But yeah, Citizen Developer. And so I don't know, it's a lot of fun. I enjoy creating the community super special. And yeah, it's really special. So thank you for having me on.
Amazing. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, and we'll see you on the next one.